I'm Cruz Devon, and welcome to This Gay Life. Today's show is called Becoming Visible, and it talks about being out and ways of being out without necessarily giving up your anonymity. I know that sounds like some sort of a strange way to do things, but you'll learn about it later on in the show. Right now I'd like to introduce my guests. My guests are Linda Smith and Bobby Davis, and they're both out. And I'd like to start by asking a question of both of you to kind of tell us a little bit about yourselves. And Linda, you can go first and kind of let us get to know you.
All right. I think the title of the program is real interesting, Becoming Visible. And I think my life, in a way, has been a process of becoming visible to myself, getting to know myself. I think for years I didn't even know I was a lesbian. I mean, I didn't realize myself I was a lesbian until I was 27 or 28 years old, and before that had never even heard the word lesbian. I mean, it seemed like there's some sort of conspiracy to keep us invisible. And I think because of that, I had a really hard time when I was younger in terms of finding relationships. I always wanted a relationship where I felt loved and known and could love someone in return, and never found it with a man. And when I was 28, I fell in love with this really neat woman named Shireen, and to me it was a spiritual experience, basically. It's like I knew myself in a way I had never known before, and in fact that was the first time I went on a TV show when I first came out, and I was teaching at a community college at the time in near Detroit, Michigan, and I told all my colleagues, and everybody sort of thought it was a phase I was going through or something. And I wondered myself, I mean, because there were no role models basically that I knew of. Shireen, the woman I came out with, knew her way around the bars, and we used to go to the gay bars, and I met a lot of great gay and lesbian people there. But I know there were other lesbians on the staff where I taught, and it was very, everyone was very invisible and very quiet. And then gradually over the years, as I got to know myself better, it was impossible for me to keep quiet about it, because I think it's unhealthy. I was very depressed before I came out, and when I came out I felt great, and I just feel real strongly that being visible is a very healthy lifestyle, whether no matter who you are, whether you're
yeah, I felt that way as a vegetarian myself.
right.
But I mean, that was a little less scary than saying that you're gay. You said that you taught. You were also a professor, or
Yeah.
where was this at?
In Michigan. I taught at a number of several different colleges in Michigan, and again became more and more visible. The first teaching job was at a community college, and actually after I came out I quit there and went traveling the world with my lover, and then went back and I taught at Michigan State, and then at a small experimental college that was part of the state system, and was out as a graduate. Like when I was teaching at Michigan State, I never kept my lesbian identity a secret, but I never talked about it in classes. When I taught at the experimental college in the early 70s, where it was popular to be a lesbian, I talked about it, and it was a huge difference. I mean, my self-esteem increased. I didn't know that. I didn't know that I was closeted when I was at Michigan State, because I would bring my lover to staff parties and so forth, but it wasn't an integral part of my thinking. I was a philosophy professor, and I think my perspective is very influenced. I think being a lesbian has given me a more flexible consciousness in a way, because I learned very early on how to move between different worlds. The gay world was very different. I mean, very different way of looking at things. And then I could move into the straight world, and it became clear to me that gave me an advantage in a way as a philosopher to understanding different points of view. And so I began to incorporate that, not in my teaching in the sense that I was trying to teach someone to be a lesbian at all. I mean, that's not my point.
You're teaching and you happen to be a lesbian.
I happen to be, but I also think that being a lesbian has given me a unique perspective, and it's useful. I think that one of the things that my heterosexual friends feel is that it's an advantage to them to know gay and lesbian people, that we have a lot to offer to the culture. And so I guess it's not that I just happened to be a lesbian, but it was an advantage. Being a lesbian, I think, has been an advantage for me, both intellectually, and it makes me happy.
So you first came out when you were 27?
27, 28, something like that. And I came out to myself. That was what was a sort of a, I didn't even know. I think I was a lesbian before that. When I look on my life, I'm sure I was always a lesbian. My major relationships have always been with women. My major soul connections. I have a lot of male friends. I think that's another misunderstanding. I'm friends with a lot of heterosexual men who have similar interests than I do and so forth, but I don't have love relationships with men.
So I guess I would take you out of the man-hating category. And
exactly. I went through that, but as a feminist. You know, in my 30s, I was sort of a man-hater.
And you still have a sense of humor. That's
right.
Great. Well, there's a lot of misconceptions, and I think people have a tendency to try and stereotype, because at first it's much easier for them to swallow bits that they can try and understand. And as their world begins to widen, they have to widen their appetite as well as their understanding. I think that's really funny. You know, moving from world to world, it's almost like having straight camouflage. A hunting we will go.
Right.
Only not quite, but it's what you said about feeling really empowered by actually coming out and living as an out lesbian. I've heard that before from people, that they say, well, I wasn't really in the closet, but I wasn't really out and really vocally out. And it's really an empowering experience once you finally come out and just say, yes, this is who I am. And I've heard that before. What about you, Bobby? Tell us a little about you.
Well, I guess I better explain the storyteller thing first of all.
That might
Storyteller is basically it's a tradition of just telling stories rather than writing them down and allowing people to read them. It's like acting, except that I'm my own director and actor, and I focus the stories usually on ghost stories, or and I guess I'm trying to fight the image of a librarian sitting with a book in the lap, you know, kind of thing. And part of being a storyteller has helped me as I was coming out. I had a confusion about, and I think a lot of people do whenever they take the issue of, you know, am I gay, am I straight, am I bisexual, that all those aren't good options. So I spent some time thinking, well, because I do find women attractive, that, oh, well, you know, then that means that there's hope for my mother having grandchildren, you know. And I think that's, you know, we're talking about images to dispel. You know, I find women attractive, but talking about spiritual connections, I don't find that possible. You know, I think a theme I hear from a lot of gay people I talk to, whether they're in the closet or out of the closet, is the spiritual aspect and adaptability. You have to play a lot of roles, and you have to play them all very well. You know, when I came out, I was 22, and I think I had known pretty well sure for about 2 weeks, and it got to the point to where I was like, okay, I'm sure. I was in the car with my mom, and I said, Mom, I'm gay. So she was the second one who knew. And then I wrote a letter to my dad, because he lives in Washington, D.C., and we don't always have a lot of contact because of the expense of the phone calls. And after that, I let them, you know, tell the rest of the family, and when I thought they weren't doing it quick enough, I kind of wrote letters over Christmas to make sure everybody knew at the same time. But mine was kind of a confrontive way, and I don't know that's necessarily good for everyone. It was the relationship I have with the people in my life is very much this is who and what I am. Not just I'm gay, but my personality. This is my personality. It's a package deal. And I tell people that it's a package deal, and that's how you're going to have to accept me. And it doesn't mean they have to understand me. I don't insist people do things that are uncomfortable for them. So for me, coming out was very much realizing that I was going to have to take a lot of the effort and a lot of the burden on myself. People aren't going to understand. People are going to be a little frightened or confused. But it's not something they can deal with because I've been in the closet for a long time. So I kind of knew what to expect, whereas they weren't expecting me to say I'm gay. Kind of threw things at them suddenly. And it was a surprise.
Well, if it took you 2 weeks, I mean.
Well, but there were a lot of clues where family members had said, yeah, they had seen it coming. For me, I don't know that it was necessarily confusion as much as was indecision. I could sit on the fence for a long time and not have to worry about it. And it just got to the point to where it was uncomfortable, and I think that part of that is, talking about a spiritual connection, which is very important for me. I didn't believe in myself as what I was doing or who I was. It didn't seem real. Like living half a life. There was something missing, and I knew what it was, but I couldn't tell anybody else. And I'm not one of the person to sit with discomfort and just put up with something. So I told everybody, and then figured, okay, now I've done it, and just waited and see what happened. I was very fortunate because the people in my life accept, well, I say my parents accept me, but not necessarily homosexuality. My lover's parents accept me, but not necessarily homosexuality. It's a kind of thing to where you have to give people time. A lot of it is that you have to understand people aren't going to get it all at the same time, and you can't force that on anybody.
Yeah, it does take a lot of self-discovery to be able to take someone else's beliefs in that you're very foreign to. And it's a long process. That's why I was teasing you about the 2 weeks. Linda, you kind of came out in the Ozarks, in a sense, when the newspaper interviewed you and your lover for an article about being gay in the Ozarks. Can you tell us a little bit about that, and if there was like...
Yeah, it was actually a totally positive experience, basically. Evidently, that was right before the bias crimes thing, and they were looking for a couple that would allow their picture to be in the paper. They had other people they interviewed, but anonymously. So we agreed to do it with the stipulation that we could see the article and the pictures before the news leader printed it. And they agreed, the reporter agreed, and of course, he wouldn't have been held. It was just a verbal agreement, basically, and he did. He let us see the article. I wouldn't have chosen necessarily the things. We talked to them for several hours, and he chose a very limited thing, but they were all things we said. I mean, I was very pleased with the way the news leader handled it. And then we got a lot of good strokes. I mean, when we got home from, when we went to the bias crimes hearing, and people recognized us and were, thank you, and we got home from that, and our whole tape on our answering machine was filled with lesbians saying, thanks, that was great. And then we got notes in the mail from people, acquaintances, and people we know from work. Both of us got notes from people we know through our independently on our jobs. And I had some clients of mine, I work as a massage therapist now, but say, I saw your picture in the paper, great job. It was a way for them to say, I support you. So one of the things it did for us was to let us know that we have a lot of support here. It was, we were told that in the Ozarks, people are real homophobic and everything, and that has not been my experience so far. So I teach a senior exercise class, for example, and some of the seniors came up and said, that was not a very good picture of you in the paper. You're really cuter than that, or something, And it was their way of saying, it's okay with me, And I also got the opportunity to speak to, I still love teaching, and at several different college classes, we were paid actually to talk to the class, which was a great opportunity. And I also spoke to the Ministerial Alliance, and there were 9 ministers and 7 were totally supportive. So it opened up some avenues, and I've met some very interesting people through this. And so I think that it was very good, and I really felt that I would like to encourage straight people who support us to come out. It's not just us. It makes a big difference if, like, a friend of mine said, I cannot come out at my job, although most people I work with know I'm a lesbian, but I can't come out. And I think she's right, and it's very scary. But if some of the people she works with could just say, hey, I saw Roseanne kiss a woman and I think it's fine, or find some way to say, I support you, it would make her life easier. And my feeling is that most people don't even think about it, and that there's a little window of opportunity in Missouri right now because of the amendment coalition. I mean, they're giving us an opportunity to do this show in a sense, and I think we should take that opportunity and encourage people, because I think it's about human relationships. It's not about laws. So that the fact that there is a law, a proposed amendment, gives us an opportunity to form alliances and relationships. And I think a lot of straight people would love the opportunity to show their support, and that most people really don't care that I'm a lesbian. One way or the other.
That's what I've found. I mean, it's a real it's kind of like, so?
Yeah, right.
What's your point?
Right.
And and they just kind of go on from there. They may ask me questions and stuff, and that becomes my chance to be the educator or teacher. And I don't know if I really feel real comfortable in that role, but I'll tell them about my life, and which is not necessarily every lesbian's or every gay person's life, because you're just going to have to, like, if you really want to know, you got to go ask them, because if you're curious, most people who are out are very willing to talk to you and say, well, this is kind of the way it is, and no fluff, it's just kind of pretty mundane. It's nothing I'd really want to it's about as mundane as your life. I mean, the only difference is gender there.
Right.
And
but I think that thing too about coming out, I don't know if people even realize this, like in an office where there are a lot of say a group of women, and the straight women are talking about their husbands and their families and stuff, and the lesbian doesn't say anything. And if the straight women could just ask her about her, maybe she's calling her partner her roommate right now, if the straight people could just encourage her to talk about her roommate and give her that opportunity, because it makes my life as a lesbian much richer if I can say, my lover and I are going on vacation, or she's sick. I have a friend whose lover has cancer, and the people in her employment don't even ask her about it. And they would if it was her husband.
Yeah.
So I just want to put a plug in for hoping that straight people will come out
well,
too.
maybe they don't know. Now you know. See, if you're watching the show, now you know one way that you can support people that are gay. Just ask them a little bit about don't be nosy. But I mean, if you're really caring and you really want to know and maybe help them on their way to feeling more comfortable in their job place. Bobby, you were up in St. Louis working politically, and I wanted you to tell us a little bit about that.
Well, in St. Louis, once I made the decision to come out, a lot of what happened to me was just a natural progression. Things made sense. It made more sense, like, for example, I didn't want to march in the gay pride the first year. I was like that. I was not sure, because there were cameras on gay pride, but I figured because news media tends to like some of the sensational, I figured, okay, I'm not going to be wearing a dress, I'm not going to be wearing leather, and I'm not going to be, didn't figure myself to be like with a sideshow, which is sometimes what they show. And I was maybe 6 feet away from the camera. All 3 news stations had sat on the side of the road wanting a group shot, and they just panned the crowd for 2 seconds. And in 2 seconds, I'm walking across here I can't miss my face. I'm just walking by there, and actually, I don't know what all my mom went through for that, but I'm sure that was quite interesting. The phone calls, people who know both of us. You know.
Isn't that your son?
Yeah. So Bobby's there marching to show his support. Well, yes. You know, but when Queer Nation St. Louis started, I wanted to get involved in that. And when they were they looked like they might repeal the Roe versus Wade, they had a thing called the Lavender Agenda, which was basically a phone line to get information out to, not necessarily pro-choice or pro-abortion or whatever you want to call it, but get information out to women. And most of the people who were working on the network were women. I have no idea how I got on the network. I signed up for it, but I know that a lot of men were bypassed for that. And I also was active in Metroline, which is the gay and lesbian hotline. It's it had like 3 hours that would run for certain nights of the week. And it was how to get information to people without necessarily telling them the location of a bar, which I don't think is a healthy way of identifying yourself as being openly gay. There's another way. I mean, it's a place where you can be openly gay, but yes, it's a club where you go to have fun, but there's got to be some take back into the real world. You can't just go there and leave your identity in the car outside the bar, then go home. And it's a slow process for a lot of people, and it's a painful process. But part of the pain in the process is how much we think other people think about it. So whenever we got involved with Queer Nation for our activities, we did a lot of things where you can identify yourself anonymously. You're identifying yourself as a homosexual person, not, hi, I'm Bobby Davis, a homosexual person. There are a lot of ways of just letting people know that they have met a gay person throughout the day, or that they have seen, I mean, a lot of people don't think they see gay people because we're not cross-dressing or something, Or
because they don't have a L on their forehead or G.
We're not all hairdressers and women mechanics. I mean, we have a lot of, we're bankers, we're artists, yes, but we're also school teachers, social workers. We're in all aspects of life. I haven't seen a career that hasn't been represented by somebody, either a lesbian or a gay man. So we're out there. It's just that a lot of people aren't comfortable in saying, oh, by the way, I'm gay. So
how did you guys do that? You started a visible invisibility type of, or I can't remember exactly how you said it.
It's visible invisibility. It's a theme. I don't know where it originally came from. It was brought up during the Queer Nation, our first meeting, but it wasn't part of the Queer Nation agenda. It was just somebody else had known about it. Marking dollar bills is a good example. A clear symbol would be the pink triangle. What I usually do is I get the little file folder labels, get them in bright pink, cut them into triangles, and you can put them on the back of quarters, put them on napkins whenever you go out to eat. Another thing you can do is just get a 3x5 card, fold it in half, put a pink triangle on the inside, put your tip inside of it when you tip somebody at a restaurant. It's just to let somebody know that we're everywhere, that we're not, some little group that only goes to the bars and then disappears, when they're closed. A lot of it is just, well, I hate to use the word ignorance, but it's a lack of knowledge. People really just don't realize how much we're out there, how many numbers that we have, and what kind of influence their actions have on us. Some of the things that they had for it is we would, like letters to the editor. There are other ways of doing it. I think the best way of visible invisibility is just vote. Being political activists, of course, that would have to break down to that eventually. But be original, be clever. There are a lot of ways to do it. The red ribbon for AIDS awareness.
Well, a lot of people are wearing that aren't gay. I mean, just because they support.
But that's supportive.
Yeah, supportive. Yeah.
I can think of PFLAG, the Parents and Friends of Lesbians and Gays of St. Louis. They have a stretch of road that they clean up, take care of, and PFLAG can also, parents and brothers and sisters and friends of gays and lesbians can also put the pink triangle on there. What you're trying to say is that we support, not necessarily having to, like I said, I don't believe people should do things they're uncomfortable with, support homosexuality, but we support homosexuals. As an individual, I don't like to be thought of as a gay man because I'm more than that. You're more than lesbians. That's not telling you any more than saying that I'm white. You know, it's just not giving you enough information to make a decision. And people need to realize that. You know, I buy a lot of books, and my big thing is that I like to let people know, because the bookstores, I find that that's a really good place, something that I can do consistently, you know, put pink triangles on the money there, letting them know consistently. Now they also know that I'm openly gay, because when I go there I buy gay and lesbian books, you know, or whatever. But, you know, on the dollar bill, letting them know. You know, maybe the manager doesn't know that there are actually gay people coming through a store or whatever, but
so whoever counts the money at night basically knows
something, you know. It's just enough, it's just to show people numbers, it's to get an idea out there of what the real world is.
So there's a whole bunch of things that we can do as individuals to show that we're supportive of gays or homosexuals, whatever you want to call it, in the Ozarks. Even if you're not gay, be supportive. One of the worst things I've come across is people just hanging back and being silent. I mean, even in the last vote that we had, there was less than 30% of the vote out, and that's kind of strange. I mean, if you care about what's going on in your life, care enough to at least go out and vote, which or need to kind of wrap up here. Let me go ahead and go over some announcements real fast. Coming up, we've got the Mom Conference, which is Missouri on the Move, and that's going to be April 8th through the 10th at Columbia, Missouri. And that's headed off by the Missouri Task Force for Lesbian and Gay Concerns Policy Institute, nice name, and Missouri University's Triangle Coalition. If you need some more information, we'll be giving you a number and an address that you can write to find out about this. Other announcements are that COHAB is changing its monthly meetings to quarterly meetings, and its monthly newsletter is going to a quarterly newsletter. In the meantime, basically, we will be giving you updates of things that are coming up and also be letting you know of things that are going on. Also, the COHAB information line can be reached 24 hours a day. We'll be giving you that at the end of the program. So if you haven't got a pencil yet, go scrounge around, find you some pencil and paper there. And as far as news, there's another vote coming up, which we mentioned earlier. It's on April 5th. And the issues that are going to be voted on, one of the main ones is R12 school board members. And it appears, and I say it appears, that some board candidates may have agendas borrowed from the religious right. So please take the time to educate yourself on the issues and about the candidates, and whatever you do, exercise your right to vote. Okay. We've got just a few more things coming up here. We need some volunteering. COHAB is asking for volunteers. If you'd like to volunteer, we're going to have the address coming up. Also, This Gay Life, our program, your program, we're looking for an intern. We need some help. If you have some time and would like to work in news or something, please give us a call. And that number is, as well as the address, is that coming up here? Yeah, there it is. P.O. Box 1434, Springfield, Missouri, 65801, and the number is 888-6927. I'd like to thank my guests, Linda Smith and Bobby Davis, for being here and helping us with this. And thank you for watching. And if you'd like to support us, call the number. If you just want to say it's a great show, call the number or write us at that address. Thank you very much for joining us for This Gay Life.